Hello Rossonere fans, welcome back to this new edition of our AC Milan Talk. We are going to discuss everything about the Rossonere. Of course, I'm not alone. I welcome here with me Sheridan.
Hi Juicy, how are you? I'm looking forward to this episode. So much to talk about.
And Adriano del Monte, welcome.
My favourite time of the week, Juicy. Great to be back, Sheridan. Good to be with you. Looking forward to getting into it.
So, we are ready. Let's begin. Today is a special episode because we celebrate the great achievement on London, actually the second leg against Tottenham. Here are the results of the round of 16. We got to the quarterfinals after 11 years, Sheridan.
It's so good for Milan to be back among the best 8 teams in Europe. Of course, the job is not over, but it's so good. The next phase of the UEFA Champions League starts now. This club should be at this stage of the competition every year. Hasn't happened for a while, but now it has, and there's a new chapter to be written.
Absolutely. A significant result and a great performance. I think this is as good a 0-0 as you could have asked for. It hasn't been 0-0 for about 6 years at this stadium. So, look, Milan knew coming in that this result would be enough. And, well, to be fair, I think there were a few chances to win it. But, look, in the end, a 0-0, and as you said, Sheridan, getting back to where this club belongs, certainly the most important factor of it all. But as I said, there were a couple of chances, particularly as the match wore on. A couple of chances here, a few plays in the box, trying to make the most of it. Not coming off, but there were half chances. But in the end, I think they will be pleased.
Absolutely. I mean, the highlights, Spurs, Tottenham didn't really make much of an impact, and that's not Milan's problem. Milan are all the happier for that. But it was Milan with the team that really looked like they were going for it as the match went on. This is Theo Hernández's break, and he finds Origi here. And this was so close, guys, to being the cherry on the cake. This was right at the end of the match, and it would have made it 2-0 on aggregate, 1-0 on the night. And as I said, it was a classic European performance.
That's exactly what happened before, and that's Mike Maignan going strong on it.
Brilliant scenes, so much joy. Mr. Pioli absolutely thrilled. It's what this young squad has been working towards. And it wasn't an easy atmosphere. It's a passionate stadium, and Spurs are coached by the highly respected Antonio Conte. So Adriano's right, it was a 0-0, but it was an exciting 0-0 from Milan's point of view, and a crucial one.
And certainly enjoyable for the fans there. We saw the pictures of those fans. That is a special trip to make, to witness something that hasn't happened for over a decade. So those Milan fans will have that memory in the memory bank for a long time to come. They played their part. And I can tell you I wasn't at this match. I was actually at the other match at the time, the Bayern-PSG match. But you could hear, even on the TV screen, just the presence those fans made, the noise they made. It sounded like a Milan home match at times.
Exactly. Especially in the last 10-15 minutes. It was, when they were playing in London, you could only listen to the Rossoneri fans chanting for the very last part of the game. We have to say AC Milan risked very little. They almost didn't actually give any chance to Tottenham shooting.
It's the right thing because Milan didn't need to win. Milan needed to draw or win. And the fact was that you don't have to go out and play all guns a-blazing every match. If you won the first leg, if you did your work in the first leg, which Milan did, and the second leg you can have a 0-0 or a 1-1, that's okay. And I'd say it was a vintage European away performance in difficult conditions as the match wore on. The rain became heavier, the pitch became more difficult, and it was just a really professional, efficient performance. And there were players that stood out, but everyone did their part.
We saw a couple of images there of Maignan and the role that he played. Probably didn't have as much as we would have thought he would have had to have done on the night, but when he was called upon, he stepped up and delivered. And it's just his presence now back with support of the defence that just shows how important he is to Mr. Pioli. So great that he put in a good shift, but I think, Juicy, the takeaway is this performance on the European stage and getting back to the quarterfinals. As I said off the top, this is where Milan belong. And this can only lead to bigger and better things now going forward.
Also, let's mention how high of a rhythm they kept throughout the whole game. We have to say that.
It's always hard to play against Premier League sides. They really do have a different, as you say, rhythm to what we're used to in the Latin countries, Spain, in Serie and Italy. And Milan didn't look tired. They didn't look physically outrun at any point, and in fact it was Milan who were going for it as the match came towards the end.
And so it's a good sign of progression as well, because let's not forget Milan met Chelsea in the group stage, and they were a couple of difficult fixtures. So it's good to see the progression that has come from that lesson to now taking on Tottenham, and not only eliminating them but not conceding over 180 minutes, 2 legs, is a fantastic effort as well.
That's true, and also our technical area director Paolo Maldini had something to say about the game last night, so let's listen to his words.
Contentezza, piacere, orgoglio, un gran sorriso per il percorso che è stato fatto, l'abbiamo detto nel pre-gara, per come siamo arrivati a questo punto. Naturalmente non possiamo pensare di essere stabilmente tra le prime 8, non lo siamo assolutamente, ma adesso che ci siamo ce la giochiamo, perché comunque le occasioni quando ti passano le devi prendere al volo. Da fuori si soffre di più, ma è una tensione diversa, e devo dire che è anche un'età diversa, quando comunque sei più avanti con gli anni riesci a gestire meglio le cose. Ho risentito quei brividi che ci dava il Milan di quei tempi lì, perché questa è stata comunque un'impresa e devo dire che ce la siamo meritata. Se la sono meritata i ragazzi, che sono qualcuno la prima esperienza a questo livello, se le sono meritate i tifosi, che sinceramente anche nei periodi brutti ci sono stati. L'avevamo detto, avevamo avvisato che ci sarebbero stati, ci sono stati sempre molto vicini. Eviterei la squadra italiana, ma a questo punto se dovessero passare in 3 sarei contento per il calcio italiano, e a questo punto che arriva. Non possiamo pensare di essere a livello del Bayern in questo momento, del Manchester City, del Real, campione in carica, però se dovessero capitare questi sorteggi ce la giocheremo.
So these were the words of our technical area director, and I want to ask you how great of a satisfaction it must be to take home this kind of result.
Well, this trophy, the Champions League or European Cup as it was once known, means so much to Paolo Maldini. It's part of his family's DNA. His father, Cesare, was the first Italian to lift the trophy as captain of Milan in 1963. Paolo himself won it 5 times as a player, and I think he'd now love to get his hands on it as a director, as head of the technical area, and just to continue his team's connection with the competition.
And continue to rewrite his name and his legacy into the history books of this famous club, of course. It's a new challenge, it's an exciting challenge, and he's done well so far when we look at Serie, but I think you're right, Sheridan, if he can really do this in Europe. No Champions League trophy at this club since 2007. I think the time is now. So one step closer with this first quarter-final in just over a decade, and whoever the opponent is, Julesy, I think all will be very excited for what's to come.
Now we're going to listen to the words of our coach Stefano Pioli, telling us all about bringing this kind of energy into Serie A.
Grazie soprattutto alla qualità dei giocatori che il club mi ha messo a disposizione. Ho un gruppo con dei valori e io questo non me lo dimentico, soprattutto non ho mai perso fiducia in questo gruppo, anche in momenti, insomma, in partite dove non siamo riusciti a giocare alla nostra dimensione, anche attraverso qualche risultato negativo. Però i giocatori hanno fatto una partita con tanta personalità, con tanta voglia di non mollare mai, quindi nel doppio confronto abbiamo, secondo me, ampiamente meritato questo passaggio del turno. Dobbiamo portarci questa energia, questa positività e questo entusiasmo anche subito in campionato, perché dobbiamo tornare a vincere in campionato, perché comunque è troppo importante fare bene in campionato, arrivare nei primi 4, perché ci darebbe la certezza di rigiocare ancora la Champions. Poi quello che riusciremo a fare in Champions ci penseremo fra un mese, sicuramente daremo il massimo per superare anche i prossimi turni. È chiaro che adesso rimarranno solo le prime 8, le più forti squadre d'Europa, quindi sarà un turno difficilissimo, ma allo stesso tempo un turno bellissimo da affrontare, molto stimolante, molto emozionante, quindi siamo il Milan ed è giusto che abbiamo fatto un passo alla volta e proveremo a fare anche il prossimo passo con positività.
These were the words of Stefano Pioli. Sheridan, what do you think about it?
One of the things that I love most about Mr. Pioli is that he's always balanced. When the team are going through a difficult time, and we know that January was tough, he kept level-headed, he kept balanced, and now that the team are back in the last 8 of Europe, he's just sort of staying calm, and I really respect that. He's not someone to get too excited or too downhearted about things. And, well, after last night's result, there might have been rain in London, but Pioli was on fire.
He was very well put, Sheridan. Look, I like that. I like his approach. I love the calmness that he brings to it. And that's why we've seen him bring the very best out of this squad and bring them through some tough challenges earlier this year. But as he touched on, and what does excite me is that quarter-final, both home and away, of course, but the home leg is going to be something extra special. I know I'll be there. I hope you're with me as well. But it's certainly not one to miss, because this is what it's all about, playing in Europe against the elites, the final eight. Who knows who the opponent will be, but it's going to be a famous night in this club's rich history.
Also, we have to say that living emotions such as the ones from the second leg against Tottenham can motivate our men for, to get to the top four into the Serie league.
Yeah, it's a feel-good factor. Success in difficult matches in Europe brings that positivity around the group, around the training ground, around the squad, and you can use that, you can profit from that, and that must be what Mr. Pioli will say to his players. Look what you're capable of. And use it as fuel, as belief.
Absolutely. A result like that has to do wonders for the confidence and self-belief of this group. Obviously, again, coming through what was a difficult January period, they have now certainly found their best form in Serie. There have been a couple of challenges of late, but results like this, you can't buy. And the experience, the value you can take away from it, I'm expecting an even more improved Milan in the next Serie match on Monday evening.
Now we are listening to the words of two protagonists of the game. We're talking about Theo Hernández and Sandro Tonali.
È una stanchezza che non la senti, perché quando giochi queste partite sei pieno di adrenalina, alla fine sei anche pieno di emozione, perché giocare così, giocare per il Milan, qualificarci dopo 11 anni è una cosa bella, quindi la stanchezza la sentirò nei prossimi giorni, però non importa. Le partite di Champions sono diverse, diversa l'intensità, il ritmo, come devi gestire la palla, il palleggio, quindi devi mettere in campo sempre qualcosa in più del campionato. Poi devi essere bravo a distinguere le cose e riportare tutti questi ritmi e alti livelli in campionato, quindi è difficile giocare entrambe le partite, campionato e Champions, agli stessi livelli, però sicuramente in Champions hai una forza dentro, poi anche tutti questi tifosi che sono venuti qui oggi, che ci hanno dato una grande carica.
Sappiamo che la Champions League è bello giocarla, no? È bello stare lì, è bello di vincere tutte le partite, ma come ho detto adesso dobbiamo lavorare bene tutti i giorni, adesso dobbiamo vedere che squadra abbiamo in quarti di finale e andare avanti. No, dopo è vero che Rafa è un giocatore incredibile, dopo il mister ha detto che possiamo giocare liberi, io posso andare dentro, lui può andare fuori, dentro, fuori. È quello che stiamo facendo, e dopo Rafa e io giochiamo molto bene insieme e sono felice di giocare con lui.
Beautiful post-match interview from Sandro Tonali, who had to mention how he was living as a child, as a Rossonero fan, the last time the AC Milan went into the quarterfinals. So let's comment on that.
Theo was fantastic in the match, as was Sandro Tonali. They both really showed their quality at the highest level. I mean, Theo Hernández, we've spoken about it before. Since Mr. Pioli selected the three central defenders, Theo has got a lot more freedom, and he really caused a lot of headaches for the Tottenham rearguard. And Sandro Tonali in midfield, we forget how young he is, because firstly, he looks 30. He's matured early, and he looks a lot older than he really is. But he's got such confidence. That's the clip where obviously someone fouled him, but he didn't make a fuss about it. He just gets on with it. He plays in a part of the pitch where you will receive some tough challenges occasionally, but he looked up to the challenge physically and mentally against Tottenham, and that's great for the future.
Mentally, certainly the key, because he spoke about the emotion, and for a young player coming into, relatively new experience for him, you can be overwhelmed with emotion, and the fact that they maintained a level head, stayed cool and calm, they got the result as a result. So you have to be happy for him, because he would have been very young when Milan were last in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. For Theo, a nice little story. At the Bayern PSG match I was at the same time as Tottenham Milan, I was actually seated beside Lucas Hernández, his brother, who was very closely following his brother's progress. I was watching the Milan game live, and Lucas was keeping tracks on his brother. So look, wonderful for Theo, and given his quality and what he and Rafael have done that left-hand side,
exactly what he's talking about also.
We're very happy for them all.
In his interview, how dangerous they can be actually.
Super dangerous.
Leao. So, of course, this is also what he had to say in his post-match interview. And now, let's switch to actually taking a look to the graphic of the other teams' qualifications also. We're talking about what now, and now, actually, the actually quarterfinals and the first leg that just ended. We can take a look at the results. Actually, let me ask you this. This is a tricky question. What kind of team would you pick if you could?
Obviously, 4 through, still 4 more to come. I think the quality is there. We've seen the 4 already qualified: Benfica, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, and obviously AC Milan. 4 more to come. Look, all of the teams are tough. On paper, you'd look at Benfica in the teams that have already qualified and think, well, perhaps not the strongest, but they're a Benfica team who matched both Juventus and Paris Saint-Germain in the group stage and cruise through to the quarterfinals. So I don't think there's any easy match, but I would love to see any big club come to Milan and make it a very
Italian club, foreign club.
Oh, look, Italian club would be very, very interesting, of course. Nothing wrong with an all-Italian battle. But I think they're all going to be very tough and going to be very exciting in any case.
As we say here in Italy, you can't make calculations. You should be really pleased that the hard work has paid off and you've reached the quarterfinals. The professionals, the players and the coaching staff, I don't really think they'd sit down and say, well, let's hope we get them because we can beat them. They're all good teams. It's the final 8. There are some who are perhaps a bit scarier on paper than others, like Real Madrid are the masters of this competition in recent years, but they're all going to be tough sides. I mean, going back to what Adriano said about Benfica, it is true that Milan's first European Cup victory, they beat Benfica in the final in '63 and beat them again in 1990 thanks to a Frank Rijkaard goal. And Napoli and Inter, well, Milan know those two sides very well, but there's a long way to go. Let's worry about who they're playing when the match takes place.
All right, of course. Now we're going to jump into the Serie A because we have to talk about the last defeat against Fiorentina, and we have to say that AC Milan never gave up. Theo Hernández scored in the very last minutes, but it was a difficult game, wasn't it?
I think there are 2 things to say about this match. The first is that Fiorentina played really well.
They gave their best.
Fiorentina really, they are improving. Adriano mentioned that last week. Fiorentina played really well. They deserved the victory. And I think the second thing to say is you're never happy when your club loses in the league. But if it's a few days before getting to the quarterfinals or the Champions League after 11 years, you can kind of accept it. And that's the way I think this fixture should be viewed.
It's that time of the season as well, and Fiorentina, yes, in the same boat, but juggling both domestic and European commitments, it is tough for players. And look, with a trip to London only a few days later in a tie that was delicately poised. Let's not forget, it was only a 1-goal advantage. So there had to have been some focus ahead of the Tottenham match with respect to the Fiorentina clash. But let's hope that as we discussed before, from the response we saw against Tottenham, I'm very confident that in this upcoming fixture against Salernitana, Monday evening, a couple of extra days of rest, that we will see a response in Serie A with plenty of positivity taken from the Champions League.
Right, that's exactly what we're jumping into because we have to look forward to the game against Salernitana, which is a team that should not be actually underestimated. They just changed their coach on the bench and they've been actually playing better since he's there. The defense is better also.
Yes, Paolo Sousa has recently taken over as manager, head coach of Salernitana, and he'll be organising things. He'll be trying to tighten them up. There he is in his days as Fiorentina boss, double Champions League winner as a player as well with Juventus and Borussia Dortmund. So he knows his way around a football pitch, a way, a training ground, and very smart dressing dress as well, a lovely cardigan there, and he'll know what he's doing. So Salernitana will certainly benefit from the acumen and the tactical know-how of the elegant, classy Portuguese.
A couple of positive results for them coming in as well. They haven't conceded in the last two. They have struggled for goals of late. I think they've only scored in one of their last 5 matches. So, look, this was the meeting earlier in the season. Milan got out to a 2-0 lead. Salernitana pulled one back late. As we discuss all the time, Juicy, every opponent needs to be respected, but especially with Sosa coming in and Salernitana just putting in some improved performances of late. Always need to be cautious, as we saw against Fiorentina last week. But again, I really feel that off the back of that emotional performance at Tottenham, I think the boys will be red hot and ready to go to put in their best performance and pick up 3 points here in Serie A.
Right, the images that we're watching right now, of course, the last match against Salernitana smiles at the Rossoneri, we have to say that, but still, they just celebrated their 5th clean sheet actually of the season, so we have to be careful about that. And now we're going to jump into the world of our AC Milan women. Back to the Coppa Italia with our AC Milan women, an important win in the first leg of the semi-final against Roma. Sheridan.
Yes, and it was a really, really impressive victory considering Roma's form. They finished the first half of the season as fairly runaway leaders. They're a team that have really improved in recent years, and
8 points, Sheridan, very comfortable.
8 points ahead of the rest of the crowd. Beat Milan twice in the league, 2-0 both times. So for Milan to get this result was really, really impressive. The ladies were playing there in the fabulous new 4th kit, and Roma certainly made Milan aware of their presence. Mr. Gantz applauding, but Milan did take the lead thanks to this towering header from Andrea. Guess who scored?
Martina Piemonte.
Martina Piemonte.
Did we find the nickname for
Great
her?
performance also from the goalkeeper, actually.
Well, yes, Selene Bab as well, who is the keeper, who plays in the cup matches, made some fantastic saves, which we'll see shortly. But that's just another look at that. Si è girata Martina. That's a tribute to a former teammate as well, who's had a few health issues recently. But this is the chance for Valentina Bergamaschi. Berga, who just dragged it past to the post. 2-0 would have been a fantastic scoreline to take to the second leg, Juicy, but it wasn't to be. But that's Giaushinti being denied by Selena Bab. It was a lively match, and Roma looked like a really good team, but on the afternoon, not good enough to beat Milan.
Very impressive display, and of course, the return leg to come. A result is enough. Very exciting for the girls now going into this. Then, of course, post that, the remaining fixtures of Serie A will resume. But a fine performance. And just before we finish, I asked, did you come up with a nickname for Martina that you promised last
You
week?
said it already. It's Marti, isn't it?
Marti, yes.
He was promising to be a bit more creative, but...
I was. I'll get something. If the ladies get to the final,
Okay.
I'll come up with a fabulous...
I'm sure that will motivate them.
That is the biggest motivation that any player can have, and there it is. There is Martina Piemonte, and as we speak, I am trying to invent a clever nickname
Not
for
so
her.
fast. Before, we have to win, you're right?
Yes,
All right. With
yeah.
the second leg of the semi-final of Coppa Italia will be played on
And
Saturday.
even if they don't win it, Juicy, I'll come up with a nickname. Even
Oh, well, now
She
let's
deserves
motivate
it.
them, though. Now, a surprise, actually, for the Rossonere fans. Let's take a look at the next video.
Lace up my shoes, time to get it. Put in the work, I'm with it. Paying my dues with sweat and tears. There is no weakness here. You go hard, I go harder. You beat, I beat farther. You cannot match my speed. Cause I'm out of your league. I'm out of your league. I'm out of your league. Everybody wanna get like me. Better reach for the stars, cause I'm out of your league.
So the opening of the Instagram account of our women was actually officialized. Go follow @AC Milan Women, and of course I know you were really excited about this, Sheridan.
I think I was the first to follow. I actually
You were the
assumed
first one.
I think so. That's
You're the
what I'm
one
gonna.
who
That's
created
what
it.
That's what I'm telling you anyway. No, it's fantastic. The access is unprecedented. Those players, those ladies, are heroes to their fans, and you get to see them. You get to see a little bit behind the scenes. You get get to see what they are like as people, not just as football players. They get up to all sorts of fun things. There's a press-up, or if you prefer, push-up challenge that a couple of the players did that Adriano and I will not be doing, a push-up challenge on this show.
Who said? Maybe we will.
Well, you're Australian, you'll probably win. But no, honestly, go and follow them. Even if you don't see all of their matches, go and follow them on the Instagram account.
Absolutely.
They're a nice group of players as well.
And great footballers, playing some great football as well, which we love to see.
Right, now we're going to jump into the world of our under-19. Back to a win against Cagliari, and now Adriano.
Well, we wanted it and it's come, Sheridan. A win against Cagliari off the back of a strong performance in the UEFA Youth League. We know that's still to come as well, but a win away from home, great preparation ahead of a very big quarter-final in the UEFA Youth League, and slowly climbing up the standings as well. Now 24 points there, 3 points clear of Atalanta and Napoli, heading in the positive direction, but of course one eye now on what's to come in the next days.
Yeah, exactly. It's the feel-good factor that came from the victory in the UEFA Youth League. This is the goal. It was cleared, and Chaka Traore here, watch this shot against the crossbar, nearly breaks the goal, but Kevin Zeroli, there are 3 players and a goalkeeper on the line, but Kevin Zeroli found the net to make it 1-0, and if you think about it, Kevin Zeroli was the man who scored against Ruch Lviv in the UEFA Youth League, so the attacking midfielder, the number 18, that's, watch this, doesn't have long to think about it, but makes the right decision.
Scored with his head in the Youth League, showed he can do it with the right foot here as well.
He's in great form, and
finish.
The players have brought that positivity from the UEFA Youth League to domestic football, and it was good to go to Sardinia and get 3 points.
Now, the next match on the schedule for our boys will be the game against Bologna, which will actually be the best way to get ready for the quarterfinals of Youth League against Atletico Madrid. Here are the next pictures, the match against Bologna. Sheridan, what do you think about it?
I think it'll be very interesting for Mr. Abate, for the boss, just to have a look at a few things. If he wants to maybe tweak a few structures in the team, if he wants to try a few players out, if he wants to rest a few players as well, with that match against Atletico in mind. This is the previous meeting this season, and a fairly convincing 3-0 victory there. And like I say, maybe some fine-tuning from Mr. Abate with the big European event in mind.
I think similar to the men's first team as well, a few days out from a quarter-final, perhaps one eye on that, but using this match, yes, go in search of the 3 points, but certainly as a means to prepare for what's to come against Atletico Madrid. But if this results in anything to go by, some good recent form against Bologna, let's hope for much the same, and then they're primed and ready to go for Atleti.
We have to say that the Rossoneri give their best in the European Cups, aren't they? Because actually, even before the game against Atletico that's coming up, they were on fire, weren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's in the DNA of Milan at any level, so no surprise there whatsoever. Here's the bracket for the remaining matches, so we can see now Milan with Atleti. Some big clubs, Sheridan, still in the competition. Of course, Dortmund on the same side there, Liverpool, Real Madrid, some really famous names still remain in the competition.
Yeah, similar to the senior edition, you know, the men's tournament. There are some huge teams with huge histories still involved, but it has to be, it's a cliche, but it has to be one step at a time, get over the hurdle. It's a one-off match as well in the UEFA Youth League, the quarter-final against Atletico, just to break off, that's Kevin Zeroli's fine-headed goal. The quarter-final will be one match, 90 minutes at the Puma House of Football. If it ends level after 90 minutes, there could be penalties, so Giusy, Adriano, I hope you're feeling brave, because watching penalties can sometimes be a bit nerve-wracking, but hopefully it won't get that far.
Of course. Now, thank you very much, Sheridan Bird, for being with me again.
My pleasure. Nice to see you, Giusy.
Thank you very much, Adriano Del Monte.
Thank you, Giusy. Pleasure as always.
And this is how we're closing this new edition of our AC Milan Talk. We'll be meeting again next week to discuss everything about the Rossoneri world.